There it is. There it is.
Woo!
Oh,
Right.
are you doing the finger thing? I can't do that.
I'm trying to do those finger things. I don't know
Are we scissoring again? I don't know what's happening.
This,
I do know that.
How long have you been up, Ian? Getting a little late at night to be talking about scissoring. Okay.
Already 10.
Why do you always go to sexual
10
stuff?
seconds
What the heck?
Because
we
always
started it.
Well, here's the thing.
You get
Some of us
too
never,
much, or you're deprived.
Some of us never have to go to sex stuff because we never leave. But anyway.
Now you're talking.
No, how long have I been up in terms of hours or days?
Yes,
anyway, I can't answer
Call a
that question.
doctor
It's
if
all
you've been up more than 5 hours.
Well, we are going to be having a very energetic conversation tonight, I feel, for What If We Talked About What If, episode 4, which aired on Disney Plus this morning. And this is the first of the series that all of us are kind of going into brand new. As critics, we had access to the first 3 episodes, which we finished talking about last week. But yeah, this is undiscovered territory for all of us, and it's very exciting. I'm very thrilled to be here with Earth's Mightiest Critics, including myself. I'm Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have also in the room David Fowley of Keeping It Real, Don Shanahan of 25 Years Later and the Cinephile Hissy Fit podcast, and Every Movie Has a Lesson, and Mike Crowley of 25 Years Later, and You'll Probably Agree, or YPA Review. So welcome, gentlemen. How's everybody doing tonight?
I'm good.
Yeah?
School started, getting tired, but I'm good.
Yeah, you're back in the swing of teaching. How's that?
Yeah, it's good. So far so good. We're just trying to, not cough at each other. We're
doing the whole superhero thing, masked up, and
yeah, pretty much.
Here's a question. Do they allow like crazy individualized masks?
Very much so. Yeah.
So what's the coolest mask you've seen?
All right, I don't want to eat up a lot of time.
I know all your students watch this, so better watch it.
Yeah, of course they're watching. Hey kids, how you doing?
No names, just designs. Yeah.
I saw a kid with a Tasmanian devil, so like a big row of teeth and like the tongue sticking out and like just kind of brown, like just as if that was his mouth. So it's just boom, just a big grill of Tasmanian devil Looney Tunes teeth.
Those always throw me when I see somebody crossing the street. I'm like, all right, what's up with that? Oh, okay.
You crossed over into a hell dimension.
Yeah. It's like
well, so let's dive right in. The title of this particular episode is "What If Doctor Strange Lost His Heart Instead of His Hands," which takes us once again back into the MCU to. I mean, this is, I think, the first episode, if I'm not mistaken, where they got everybody back who was in the original movie that was in the show. They don't have Chiwetel Ejiofor because they don't deal with he's not in it. But I mean, they've got Benedict Cumberbatch, Benedict Wong, the Benedicts, Rachel McAdams,
Eggs Benedict. Sorry.
Yes, and Tilda Swinton. For a variation on what would have happened if Doctor Strange, when he's out on his hot date, gets into a car accident, which in the movie version takes his hands, and he's no longer the brash, egotistical, world-renowned surgeon, but he has to kind of do the Bruce Wayne and Batman Begins thing and travel the world and find meaning in his life, and he ends up going into the mystic arts and becoming the Sorcerer Supreme. In this case, his would-be girlfriend ends up dying in the car crash. And so he goes a little bit nuts. And before we get any further into spoiler territory, we'll just
look at your summary, by the way, just out of that gate.
I'm glad he didn't ask anybody. He just went for it.
He just went for it. That was awesome.
Well, it's a consequence of having been up so long. I actually was going to ask someone to do the summary, but then I completely forgot. Well, thank you. But yeah, before we get into spoilers or anything like that, I do want to just get high-level thoughts going around the room, what we thought of episode 4. So, Mike, what did you think?
I'm glad you asked me. When I was watching this, I kept saying, man, I hope they don't... Can I give it away? I hope they don't chicken out with this. I hope they go there.
Did they?
And they did.
Okay, they did.
They did.
We'll talk about where there is later.
Yeah. So you don't have to hit the spoiler button. I will respect everyone's time here. They didn't go there. They did go there, and I'm glad that they didn't give us a rosy, happy ending that we always see from this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, of course, you could say Civil War wasn't happy and stuff like that, but this is more in line with that, and I like that. Now, I don't want that all the time, but periodically it works. It makes you remember, oh yeah, they actually take this material seriously. And I'll admit, like when it's trying to achieve high drama, some of the stuff is a little formulaic. You can tell, like,
Sure,
Benedict Cumberbatch is sort of like hamming it in. They're, what was his girlfriend's name in the Christine? Yeah. So like every time you could just imagine him in the recording booth, like, okay, a little sadder. Okay.
Yeah. There was one line delivery where he goes, "This isn't love."
Yes, yeah. This isn't love.
Well, that was towards the end, right?
Yeah.
I'll share my favorite line later, but it's only because I had the subtitles on that I realized what it was, and I was like, "Oh, really?
More subtitle dish? I like it." Yeah, sorry guys, Mike, I was listening to you. I got everything you said, and I agree with it. I was just searching around because I lost the spoiler banner thing. There's something going on with my Windows here. I couldn't access it, so I just want to make sure that's at the ready. But yeah, good stuff. David, why don't you jump in? You can reveal your favorite line unless it's a spoiler, or just give us your high level thought.
My favorite line is when Dr. Strange is paging through a certain tome in the library, and he's going through instructions. You know, he's flipping pages, and he just kind of murmurs to himself, "Doy." You know, like remember when everybody used to use "doy"? Like, what? Doy? Oh, doy! Like, yeah, it's like another version. It's another version of "duh." I'm like, who uses "doy" anymore, and why would he be using it?
Don, I got you with the '90s kid stuff, but nobody uses that. That was such a weird.
I was like, okay, and I actually had to rewind that because again, I watched things with subtitles, and I was like,
what did he say?
Yeah, he said that. I was like, okay.
That was almost like a bet. Like someone bet the writer, like, I bet you can't drop that in there somewhere, and she was like, oh yeah, hold my beer.
To me, this was the most Twilight Zone episode of all of them yet. That's a good thing, and I think that. Like Mike was saying, they did have the cojones to, you know, go there. And it's a heavy episode. I think it's relatable for many people. Not that many people are conjuring demons and, you know, usurping their powers, but everybody has. If the longer you live, the more likely you are to have lost somebody that you love. Just the idea of, man, if I had the power to take that back or go back in time or whatever, but would that be right, kind of thing. So initially when I read the title, I'm like, all right, so this time he's going to get injured and what? Something's going to get impaled through his heart. Shrapnel's
the Iron Strange. Yeah.
What's, you know,
because he's already the kind of the ultimate Tony Stark. I thought they were going to give him the Iron Man.
They were, you know, okay, now he's going to get damaged in the heart like Tony Stark did. But no, it's, you know, proverbial or, you know, not so figurative. Yeah, I mean, it hit Doctor Strange where it hurts, and I still think that everything he did is in character for that moment, like when we met arrogant Doctor Strange. Yeah, and I think that was really well done. I like that they did something different with the storyline because I think originally Dr. Christine Palmer backed out of the invitation.
She sure did.
Yeah, so now in this case, she went with him instead of him driving solo.
I'm glad you mentioned that because Doctor Strange, I think that's one of the movies, again, that I've seen the least out of them, although it is one of my favorite Marvel movies. I love that film. I just haven't gone back to it. So I couldn't remember that they were even out on a date in the movie. I'm like, when did that happen? Well, I guess I'll just go along for the ride.
I mean, it kind of was a date. It was just a formal where he wanted her to be his guest at a gala that he was speaking at.
Right. I just didn't remember anyone else being in the car during the accident when that happened. So
yeah, he did want her to come, but she's like, you know, because, you know, although she admired him, she was put off by his arrogance, and who wouldn't be? But the way everything plays out was very interesting. And I really like, especially the way it ended. It ended like, some of those Twilight Zones that really hit you. I don't think we need to always have redemption. I don't mind redemption arcs, but I don't think we need to see that redemption arc fulfilled in 30 something minutes.
Right.
So that's what I appreciate about this episode.
Okay.
Cool.
Nice.
Don, you're up.
Yeah. No, I have to echo the two guys before me. I was very welcome and very happy to see something that had heavy drama and heavy depth. And I feel like it's the best use of the time they've had. Like most of these other episodes, we feel like we've really overpacked something with too many elements and too many things. Even though this one has like a repetitive cycle to what it's, what it's trying to chase, so to speak. It still didn't feel like it was overrushed. Like moments lingered and confrontations lingered and decision points lingered. And for 30 minutes, this was the most well-paced one they've done, or 35, 38. I forget how long it was, but really appreciate the drama, really appreciated what it could do. I absolutely adored the full extent of his powers. I don't think we've really gotten that in the movie. Like, okay, fine, he stopped some water falling in Infinity in the end game, but then, the one solo movie he did, he's still kind of rookie Doctor Strange. Like he can make his cute little incantation shields, but not a lot of like hardcore stuff. And here we got like the Kirby blast and stuff. So like that was like fun use of the animation to show the full extent of his powers. But more than anything, it just, I highly appreciated the drama. I thought this was also the best use of the what if concept, and of course the involvement of the Watcher, or well, I should say the best use of the Watcher in this as well.
So far.
So super high in this episode. I know it's only out of 4, but best one yet for me.
Yeah. Mark, welcome.
Hello there.
Hey, thank you for popping in a little late. I apologize, but glad I could make it.
We're thanking you for popping in a little late. What do you
we accept
Could you wait another 15?
No, so Mark, we're in the non-spoiler what did you think portion of the show. So just give us your quick thoughts on what you thought. We already gave the synopsis and everything. So
I really wish they would have saved this story for a full movie.
This would be a fun movie.
I love
What If.
I loved Doctor Strange, and I'm watching this going, with just a minor tweak, you could have made this a canon standalone Doctor Strange film, and it would have been fascinating to explore.
Yeah, even if it was animated.
Yeah, even if it was animated, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I mean, Strange, as I've mentioned before, is one of my favorite of the MCU films, and watching this exploration into his character, I was digging the whole concept, especially when we get a bit of the twist, which we won't get into spoilers, but even when we got to that, I bought into it by then because of the way they set it up the whole time. I was like, okay, where are they going to go with this? Because they pretty much replicated a good chunk of, what was done in the actual movie with minor tweaks. And then I'm like, oh, they're going here. And then they go to another level. I'm like, man, this would have looked great on a big screen. And this story could have really, not maybe a 2-hour, but at least a 90-minute movie. Definitely there was an interesting way to explore some of the stuff in the Doctor Strange character, similar to what we got to see over the course of the phases of Tony Stark over the 3 Iron Man films, especially in Iron Man 3. I would have loved to see this story as maybe a Doctor Strange 3. Like after he goes through whatever he goes through with the multiverse, he's like, I've just had it. I want to do this
for me.
Yeah. And he goes and does it and has his repercussions. I'm looking at it going, man, this would have been a great Doctor Strange 3, I think. So I loved it. Yeah.
That's very interesting. I wonder.
Top it off, Ian.
Well, you guys don't want me to, because I always end up and I just rain on everyone's parade, and today's gonna be no different. I thought this was a terrible episode. Miserably acted and animated. No, I'm just kidding. I love this. This is my favorite.
I was
about to say, like,
I've known you too long. I saw you right through
not
that.
like it. He's gonna find it too sentimental. He's gonna find like one flaw in the drama.
Ian Poo-Poo Simmons.
blank all over it.
Superman.
No, the mouth acting was equally as bad as it was the last episode.
Well,
where
yeah.
that part kind of sucked.
It's weird though, because the animation, the character animation, I was like, although it's strange because at one point, no pun intended, but I vaguely remember there being rumors at one point that Tom Cruise, in addition to being rumored to play Tony Stark back in the day, was also eyeballed to play Stephen Strange.
He sure was.
And there are points in this, in this cartoon where I think particularly the Strange versus his doppelganger. Oh, well, hold on. Let me turn on the spoiler tag. Okay, so at one point, good Doctor Strange fights evil Doctor Strange. Although they're aspects of the same person and split timelines working in the same universe, calling Dr. Brown. But there are parts where they're fighting each other, and from the long shots, it looks like Tom Cruise fighting Tom Cruise. So I appreciated that. That was just for me. But it's the time element, not in terms of what they're doing in the story, but the way they're using the 30 minutes. There are points where I was like, has this been going on for an hour? It was during like the Groundhog Day sequence where they kept going over the car crash. I'm like, I can't believe this is all working as a subsection of this 30-minute episode, because everything is moving by at a great pace, but it's also densely packed with character and dialogue and really cool visuals. I mean, one of the things, one of the reasons I love Doctor Strange is because I think they let those special effects, they unleash them in the Marvel universe. All the magic and the buildings and stuff turning upside down, it's like Marvel version of Inception. They do that here with the animation. There's a scene where the Ancient One, like her ghost is talking to Doctor Strange, and she's kind of glowing, but she's got like these little J.J. Abrams like ribbons of blue light kind of trailing off of her. And I'm like, this is beautiful stuff.
Yeah, and she's like translucent enough to pass in front of him, and like but then to animate that is just amazing.
Yeah, it was. This is, I mean, I can understand why this is episode 4, because I think this is my own personal bias, because I've not cared for episodes 1 and 2 in particular. I thought 3 was pretty passable. This, I think, is consider it's a masterpiece. I think if they led off with this and then followed it up with what they started with, I think people would have been disappointed. But enough people like this series that I think they're sticking with it, so they're going to discover this and kind of be blown away too.
What I like about this is the fact that, no offense, yes, okay, I'm the DC shill, I understand, but I do like
Here it comes.
I do like the darker stuff occasionally, not all the time, but I do like it. I do like the darker exploration of the characters, and Doctor Strange really, if you're going to do that with a character out of the MCU that I know, Strange is a perfect person to do that with, because he could. I remember reading my dad's Doctor Strange comics because he loved them. And I used to read them, and he was kind of a gray area character, to where he was protecting, and he didn't care if you were good or bad. If you're going to do something that's going to screw some things up, he's going to just bring it to you. You know what I mean? So he's a character that does have a darker side to him. We know that. And to explore that in here and see him confront it, I loved how they've gradually taken it dark, though, with this series. I don't think you could start out with this episode, even though it's, for me as well, the best episode out of what we've seen so far, because it's so dark, it's going to turn a lot of people off, but they've eased us into it. We started out with what everybody wanted to see, Captain Carter. I mean, the minute they heard word that Captain Carter, everybody, we're going to see Captain Carter. And it was a solid opening, action-packed, and, and then you move into Guardians of the Galaxy, and of course, T'Challa, and, both all of that, feelings and emotions and such. So they move easy into that. Then the last one, we had someone off and off Avengers. So that gets a little dark. And now we just go full blown dark to where, we're dealing with black magic. Doctor Strange is like, I'm doing this for me. We see him get corrupted basically by absorbing bigger and bigger creatures through the centuries, for crying out loud. We don't even realize just how long he's doing that. And you're like, it's going to just be bad.
Yeah. I mean, there's when he meets up with Obang, who's kind of like his sort of guide, or he's just kind of there when he's discovering all these dark arts. They pull an Interstellar, which I loved. That scene towards the middle of the movie where they go down to the planet where time is all messed up. I think it's the ocean world, and it's like for every 10 minutes you're down there, or for every 2 minutes you're down there, it's like 10 years will pass. And they go back up to the ship, and the one guy that left up there, it's like old and gray and dying. They do that here, and you realize, my God, why is his hair white? Oh, he's been there for hundreds of years. Now, I don't know, was it established in Doctor Strange that the powers that he absorbs that he takes on as the Sorcerer Supreme, does that grant him immortality, or does he still have like a human clock that he's working with? Or are the things that he's absorbing in this episode granting him immortality because of the nature of the creatures that he's taking?
Well, I think it gave him immortality because I think they blatantly said that in the episode. And to go off of Mark's point, this episode really kind of shows like Marvel's formula, because like if you look at the first few Iron Man films and then Thor and all that stuff preceding it, it was all light and happy, and it wasn't until you got to Captain America, not Civil War, but the one
Winter
Soldier, things start to go south, right? And if you watch these series, if you go from WandaVision to all this is post everything Thanos, but now we can kind of fast track to things going south through seeing the television shows and then jumping to the movies, because that Spider-Man trailer hit, and I'm starting to wonder if that interview with Alfred Molina was intentional or not. But you could see how right now this one they eased you in. They made it fun and light, and now they made it dark. And now that they made it dark, they can maybe, hopefully, for like the last 2 episodes, go through some stranger, no pun intended, territory.
Well, you bring up a good point with the release of the trailer for No Way Home. We won't talk about that because there are some of us who are trailer purists. Yes. Yeah. But Doctor Strange is, and this isn't a spoiler, but he's integral to the trailer, and we assume to the movie. I heard a very interesting theory about what could be involved in that, and it's Mephisto. But
of course, yeah. Everybody wants Mephisto.
Thanks, buddy.
It's gonna wind up being James Woods.
That'd be awesome.
He's suddenly that was it the Shazam movie or the Kazam movie that everybody thinks was made with
Shaquille O'Neal?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But that'd be good.
No, so the idea of that trailer dropping, Shang-CHI comes out this weekend with, Benedict Wong is in that, obvious ties back to Doctor Strange. Now you've got this episode. I'm wondering how much of this, it was probably all planned out as far as the release strategy. This is always going to be episode 4, and it's going to drop the same week as, Shang-Chi and the Spider-Man trailer. But I'm excited for it because, after Thanos, the big question, and it's one that I even asked, and I think we've talked about it here, where do you go after Thanos? This big guy that's been harassing the universe for 10 years with the ability to destroy everything, who in fact does. What bigger villain can you come up with that? And the idea is not really a villain so much as a problem that everybody has to solve. And that problem going back to the root of the very human foibles of the people that are facing this threat. Again, I won't get into specifics of what happens with what we know of No Way Home, except that at the end of Far From Home, Spider-Man is outed as, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And he at some point recruits Doctor Strange to say, I would love all of this to go away. And I wonder how that ties into some of the other multiverse stuff we've seen, hinted at in the shows on Disney Plus. But yeah, I'm really digging this idea, and it's got me actually excited. It's the alternate media from the movies that's getting me excited for the future movies.
Yeah, it's all about the greatest legal strategy ever created. That's what we're really
and I hope
the dual custody works, and we finally get something that excites. Because I never felt like such a kid when this trailer was coming out, and now literally there's a line in the trailer where Wong says to Doctor Strange, "Don't cast that spell." And what was the main thing that happened in this episode? Hey, put the MacGuffin down and come have tea with me. Let it go.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the main theme with this. Hey, you love Alfred Molina. Let it go. Maybe that's a long-term thing. I'm jumping ahead of myself, but there's got to be something tied to that in that trailer. It's like they knew it, like when they were going to do it.
Yeah.
If this was the little drip feed of like, hey, especially with the Ancient One coming on and talking about absolute points and obviously the finer exposition that goes with whatever's going on when you're splitting timelines, that Loki kind of tiptoed with and started to describe for us. If this episode was a continuation of that to springboard to where we'll see Doctor Strange next, which is this movie, works for me. Yeah.
I do want to get to something that you just brought up, Don.
Okay.
It raised my eyebrows, and I don't know if it's an actual continuity error. I would be surprised if it was.
Okay.
Maybe I'm just slow on the uptake. But when the Ancient One is talking to Strange about Christine's death is what do you call it? An absolute point in time.
Yeah.
So it's something that cosmically has to happen.
Yeah.
That's why every time he uses the eye
of
to,
Agamotto.
yes, Hello Moto, the eye of Hello Moto, to go back in time and do it over again. It's a nice twist on Groundhog Day where he's actually making it happen as opposed to being a victim of like, I wake up and it's the same day over again. I do like that every time he does that, he has to accept the fact that he's going back to cause himself pain, to put himself through a car crash and nearly drown and lose the love of his life, possibly. That's a very interesting wrinkle. But he's going back to solve this problem. My question is, at what point did this become an absolute point in time? Because on the original, the pure timeline or whatever of Doctor Strange, he gets in the car, he drives, he gets in an accident, he loses his hands, and that's what starts him on his quest. According to this episode, it was always Christine that was, meant to start things off. So are we dealing with something, with a problem with the time variant authority from Loki making this a show who exists in a timeline where that is the absolute point?
I think it was just for the drama of it all, really.
I think for this episode,
again, I don't like to think of any of these episodes having been impacted by anything we saw in the MCU before,
except for the fact that they all spin off from a single point of diversion from the MCU.
Someone from Marvel said this is canon, but I think in the way
it's not canon. That's not the concept of what if at all. Yeah. It's silly to say that any of it's canon. I don't care what Feige says, because the whole idea of
the guy who's creating it says it's all canon. His word doesn't matter.
It can't be canon. It can't be canon, because then what's the point of what if? The whole idea of what if is to open up an issue and say, what if what if Uncle Ben got bitten by a radioactive spider?
Here's the thing, though. That was classically, David, you're right. That has been the point of what if. But because we're talking about a Marvel universe that is moving further into a phase where they are messing with time and reality, my point is, Feige may have said, we are going to take that concept that was never meant to be canon, and we're going to make it canon because we've led into it with this whole thing of variant timelines. That hasn't been, in fairness, it has not been established in the show. It is just like trying to say that the Twilight Zone all existed in the same universe that was all variant timelines. We haven't established that yet, but I noticed that one little bit about that absolute point in time. Like, if this is based on the Doctor Strange that we know that diverted at one singular point, was that always that wasn't always the case? It wasn't always that he lost his heart.
Well, they say that that event happening is the single point in time, which, if you're a Doctor Who fan, you're just like used to this. I'm like, where's her blue box? She said that, and I'm like,
that's a family show, though.
You should have just came out of the police box with talking about fixed points in time. She could be speaking exactly. She says this event happens that leads to him becoming the Sorcerer Supreme. The event happens. in this reality, it's her dying. It could be him losing his hands at one point. I think it's the idea that something tragic happens to Doctor Strange that leads him to find the mystic arts and become the Sorcerer Supreme, more so than that exact, her dying. And I think Feige saying it's canon is canon in that it's not in our same timeline. It's just that it exists. So by saying that What If is canon, they can pick and choose what they've put in What If and pull it into our main timeline or whatever.
Yeah.
And David, I know it's cheap and it's thin. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's right, and I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying I could see that's what their setup is because in all honesty, from watching all of these shows, it really is feeling, and it surprises me that they put Raimi in charge of it. It really feels like Doctor Strange and the Madness of the Multiverse is like going to be these offshoot films similar to like the first Avengers or whatever that launches a lot more things with all the shows and what they're setting up with the multiverse and everything going on. And I haven't seen the trailer yet, but I've seen some spoilers with Spider-Man and further building this up. It really feels like it's leading up to Doctor Strange and Madness in the Multiverse going to be the equivalent of Phase 4 Avengers.
Yeah, because I've had a lot of friends who read a lot of these things, and they say, wait till Phase 4, you have no idea what you're going to be blown away, blah, 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 blah. And already we're kind of seeing that. But I think what he says is canon. I think I should correct myself in where it means like it's canon, but not in like the cinematic universe timeline, but more like, oh, what if in this timeline this happens? So it's more of sort of like a blanket statement.
So it's canon within What If, you mean?
Yeah, it's just canon, but not. Yeah, it's like canon, but it doesn't. It has nothing to do with the movies or any of the live action stuff. But if they want,
I don't know,
they can pick something from there. It's a bit like The Mandalorian, that was live action, and then one day they decided to make Ahsoka Tano canon or something like that.
I don't want to get all Age of Apocalypse about this, but like I can like whenever this is all done, whenever they break this multiverse and have all these events happening at the same time, Alfred Molina or whoever it's going to be, I wouldn't be surprised if at the end this is their chance to like keep some components into the main line, the way like Dark Beast and Nate Gray got to hang around after Age of Apocalypse. Something is going to be. You can't make all these amazing, cool things and not fold a little bit of it into into the rest of 4 or the next part of 5.
But again, they haven't really made any original characters outside of what we're familiar with the MCU.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, unless the rabbit in their hat is the Fantastic Four, the X-Men.
Yeah. Again, I don't think they would introduce those iconic characters in an animated What If, but
but in a multiverse, in the screwiness that's coming with Doctor Strange and all that,
could be.
Well, here's the question: if they do,
if thinks like it's a reboot, it's just going to be the original cast.
Now, here's a question: if they do have the X-Men and the Fantastic Four pop up in What If, does that actually count as their introduction into the Marvel Universe? Because
it does.
This isn't canon.
It's canon, man. I like how it works now.
Maybe they'll shoot Sue Storm out of a cannon, but we won't be able to see her.
I hate the term canon because I'm a Star Wars fan, and man, you want to get hate on the term canon.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I'm like, this is fictional work, folks. Enjoy
universe.
Enjoy whatever the hell you want. If I have this spin-off story and it isn't actually considered part of the actual lore, I don't care because I loved the spin-off story.
Right,
I don't care. It doesn't have to be. Everything doesn't necessarily have to be.
Yeah.
And that's
here's
what it is.
Well, here's where I would, I understand, Mark, and I generally agree. But the thing that stuck out to me about, and I know I'm sticking on this line here about this absolute time point, the folks behind Marvel and the TV series in particular have been such sticklers for making everything kind of count. Now,
No.
sometimes they're in, in the service of misdirection, much like, is Benedict Cumberbatch the guy in the bee costume? When is Mephisto showing up? But there are very few, from what I can tell or what I can remember, mistakes that we've picked up on. They all tend to lead somewhere, even if it's to a dead end. They're like, we meant to lead you down here. So when you have a line like that where Christine's death was, the absolute time point, that just makes me wonder, what are they getting at here? Is that supposed to be was it always that case? Or is this some kind of mistake? Because it feels like a mistake, but then I don't want to believe that it is.
Well,
yeah.
Well,
and that's my fear with them. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Don.
No, that's my fear. And you guys have heard me on this for 3 straight shows. Like, that's my fear of them going to the multiverse, is because they cannot help themselves about making everything connect, when much of this should just be fun. Should just be a tangent here, a tangent there.
It's called What If.
This show, but I mean, all the other crap they're going to pull on us between now and then. WandaVision, and like we've had enough rug pulls and enough, moments to like, all of that can't stick, or just like we're saying, let something breathe. Let something be just for fun. It's Marvel enough because you put the fucking brand on it, and you played the music at the beginning of the show. That should be plenty.
Here's a question. Speaking of the Marvel brand, I'm going to rely on my more recent comic book experts for this one. I feel like the sequence where Strange is conjuring all of these creatures from other dimensions and then absorbing them is rife for Easter eggs. Were there any creatures in there that we should know, or are these just like kind of whole cloth? Like, it's a bat-looking thing with 9 eyes from somewhere. The only thing I could think of was the giant tentacle monster that we kind of last saw coming through the portal with Agent, Captain Carter. I don't know if that's supposed to be it or not.
I gotta think it's it.
I mean, I want to say the vampire gnomes have shown up in a Doctor Strange comic before, but I assume...
vampire gnome.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I think the dragon obviously reminded me of Hobbit, because
Smaug.
Smaug, voiced by Cumberbatch. The dragon, I think, is from Shang-Chi.
And
that the whole beetle thing with the cape, I've never seen before. No reference there. I think what they're doing is taking kind of familiar mythological creatures and just
like
kind
the
of
deer,
kind of tweaking them a little bit. But no specific Easter eggs other than possibly that same dragon that is associated with, I believe, Shang-Chi lore and Iron Fist lore.
All right.
Yeah.
Raise your hand. Who's seen Shang-Chi already? Just me? Oh. Okay,
let me rephrase that. Who's seen Shang-Chi?
Oh, whatever.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, hey, I have to remember you did, and I did too. We called it SHANG-CHI.
Hey,
I from Chicago. I don't know.
I recently listened to an interview with Dan Slott, writer of Spider-Man and currently Fantastic Four, and he's like, "Look, I'm gonna call it Shang-Chi because that's how I grew up with it." Boom. So, there you go.
There you go.
They said his name like 3 times in the movie, and I'm like, all right, it's Shang-Chi.
Did he say it 5 times and then he appears?
Yeah.
Shang-Chi man.
Shang-Chi man. I'm gonna bring it up.
Bring it up
for it.
Okay. The one thing that I thought was handled well, and it'll be interesting to see if Marvel goes to, we're going to the multiverse, and then if you're going to go back to combining the multiverse, which characters they pick and choose. CW did that with their Crisis event, which actually I thought they handled that well. Let's just say that when they opened up the first episode, I geeked the hell out of that because I'm like, but when they brought it to the resolution, they actually came up. Now, granted, it's TV writers, so they didn't do much for too long with it, but they did come up with some interesting concepts to where some of these characters weren't in the main timeline, but now they're main members of the timeline. And they've got others where they're remembering their alternate histories. They're not that person, but they're playing with it. I mean, they're not going too deep into it. I wish they would, but I would love to see that happen if they do that with the multiverse going forward, to where they bring it back together, but not all the characters are the same. I mean, they hinted at it already, because the Gamora we got here so far that we know is pissed off Gamora, who's not really doesn't care about Peter Quill yet. She's still, as far as I know, in this universe, you know, and that's playing with time. But still, I could see them doing that with various characters, being able to retcon. And yeah, the fixed point in time. Let's hope they do that with a couple of the characters that died during Endgame. No offense, or Infinity War, just because they could easily, with multiverse, bring these characters back at any time. I mean, this is the time travel. It's the easy retcon. Sci-fi, we've seen it forever, to where they want to bring a character back that's dead, might be slightly different. We'll just pull them from a different timeline or a different multiverse.
Yeah, I mean, also, it's not just bringing them back from the dead, but, well, I mean, soon enough we'll be seeing the undead, but what this show does great is it handpicks a certain time period in the MCU.
Right.
Like the last episode, it was, you know, Iron Man 2 / you know, first Thor. You know, so it's cool to just take a little moment from within the MCU and see what we could do here. And that's why it's interesting to even take the origin of Doctor Strange here and do something a little bit, you know, sideways. Yeah.
Well, I think we can all agree that thanks to the court system, Black Widow's death is a fixed point in time.
I sure hope so.
I don't know. Nobody ever stays dead.
Well, at least not the Black Widow we've seen before.
But with the variant with a different actress for her.
Yep. With the multiverse and variants,
recast.
You could easily recast.
Chadwick, I don't know. That's a different circumstance, you know.
So there's been rumors that
the decision of the lawyers.
There's been rumors that with what Val or Contessa, whatever her name, whatever team she's building, in from this, you know, this year with the TV series, and the rumor of whatever Avengers 5 will look like. Is it 5? Yeah, 5.
Yeah.
You know, word has it that, you know, it could be Doctor Strange helming a team, or it could be Shang-Chi, you know, whatever. Would those two teams oppose each other and go at it? Who knows? You know, it would be interesting. Obviously, you would think that, you know, Sam, Captain America, would be part of that team. You would think, so he could go kind of toe to toe once again with U.S. Agent. So who knows? There's been rumors floating around of like a multiverse Avengers. So you could have like
they're doing that in the comics. I know they're launching a new like Avengers Forever series that's supposed to be like the kind of like what you're describing, multiverse Avengers,
which is kind of silly to me because Kurt Busiek did that in the 90s anyway. It was like a 12-part series called Avengers Forever.
Well, yeah, but everything from the 90s is coming back. There's nothing original anymore.
It's true.
Yeah.
I do want to before we
coming back, and if you read that
Hammer Pants
footage, oh god, it's gonna be bad.
Well, before we go, I do want to just give a shout out to actual comic books, the things that inspired what we're talking about. Mark, I want to just say, and I was talking to David a little bit about this before we started, but I'm in your honor, Mark, also because I'm interested. I'm reading a lot of comics again now, and most of what I've been reading has been DC. There's an event gearing up called Fear State, where this is where I kind of I'm hopeful that it's good, but from what I have heard from comics the last few years, like Gotham City is constantly being overthrown by various, you know, attacks and criminal gangs and stuff. But this time it's Scarecrow who's going to, you know, get his hands on Gotham City. So it's a multi-part crossover. So I'm collecting those loose issues. Also, there's a new Kang the Conqueror series, which the first issue was pretty good. I like the new Moon Knight. But I'm not strictly Team Marvel when it comes to what I'm reading. So that's for you, Mark.
Well, thank you very much. Well, like I said, I'm just easing into it. The only thing I'm reading now is Legends of the Dark Knight. I just got the new issue, and I picked up Superman 78. So I've got Batman.
A lot of fun. That was
good artwork.
I've got Batman 89, and that's only the 6-part series, and Superman 78, which is 6-part 2. And I'm looking forward to reading those because I really enjoyed Batman 89, especially with exploration into the Harvey Dent character, something that you didn't get. It was really well written. Though the art it doesn't really look like Michael Keaton at all. It looks like your regular
No.
Batman. But Harvey Dent looks like Billy D.
does.
Williams in there. They really nailed his look.
And the art for Superman 78 was really good.
Was it?
Yeah,
I gotta look at
Okay.
that.
Yeah. I literally just picked it up. And then as I was walking by on the discount shelf, they had a book of the story of the origin story, basically, of Valeria from Conan the Barbarian. And so I picked that up for like $10. It's normally 15. So I picked that up for
There you
10.
go.
And
Was that like a trade or something?
yeah, it's a trade paperback. It doesn't look like it was a long series, but it was like, I'm a sucker for
Miniseries.
Conan. So I'm like, I'm in,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, well, it's funny because they did something really interesting with Conan once it went back to Marvel. They came out with like, a couple different comics of Conan, but then they put him in another Avengers book called Savage Avengers. Yeah. And it's crazy. It's Conan basically in modern day.
Wow.
Hanging out with
we're
Avengers,
talking.
and I think even Punisher's in there. And
Has this been collected anywhere?
it's been collected so far.
All right, I'll have to look that up.
I've kicking myself for not starting it from the beginning. I remember just as COVID popped that it was starting out, and now I forgot what issue they're on, but yeah, I've checked out the cover a couple times. They've even where I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have followed this from the beginning because it just looks insane.
Yeah.
So
all I have to say is I've been a guy who's seen the movies more than I've read the comics. But for reading comics, one that's always made me curious is Spawn, because I absolutely loved the show in the 90s.
the show in the 90s,
the HBO animated show.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Actually, that's
David,
something I've been dipping in and out of recently is, Spawn, because I love Todd McFarlane. I think he's a genius, and, for keeping this character alive for 30 years with comic books that are practically unreadable. I keep going back to them to see if they get any better, but they just don't, but I can't stop.
You can't take one Spawn comic and just pick up on it. It's impossible. Todd McFarlane and Eric Larson for continuing with Savage Dragon. I mean,
he's still going.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I do have my concerns if he's directing the movie, though. Like, dear God,
go hire a pro.
Give it to David Lowery. Now, that's a guy who would direct a really scary Spawn.
I had heard, I think I half read a story or half read a headline last week about some big shakeup news on the Spawn movie. I don't know if McFarlane's still directing it. So we'll see. But anyway, this has been What If We Talked About What If, and we certainly have done that. So thank you again, gentlemen. I'm excited for week 5, whatever that may bring. I think it has to do with Thor, if the synopsis on IMDb is anything to go by. But we'll see if they can keep this up. We didn't talk about this dark ending. We teased it in the non-spoiler section, but essentially things don't work out for Mr. Strange, and the Watcher has to kind of step in and just he doesn't step in.
Talk him down.
Stepped in and went like this.
Yeah, he just like.
Can we say that the Watcher actually became canon within the story? Because he's like, he'll become involved, and then
he got involved.
Like, hello,
okay?
I'm in this episode, and
he wasn't so much a Watcher in this episode.
Well, but here's a question: did he get involved, or is he made himself known? Like Strange discovered him, because I think he was sort of the ultimate power that he was looking for. But the Watcher is like, no, this is just not what I do. I'm sorry. And then reality collapses in on itself, and then it basically gets absorbed into this kind of like a little what if blip in that cracked mosaic we see at the beginning of the show.
There was that one moment where Strange turned around and goes, hello, is anybody else here? And because he heard the Watcher, and because I think out of all the characters, if anybody could sense the Watcher's presence, it would be Strange. So I think that's one of the reasons why Uatu was very, very was basically okay with stepping in. Now he didn't step in and change anything. He made himself known, like you said, and he said, "Look, I can't help you." And
I think that goes back to, conscious or not, that ties back into what we saw with Loki, with the idea of going to the dead timelines, to going to places that are guaranteed to be destroyed. There's nothing you to stop it, so you can go and kind of like screw around however you want. the Watcher stepping in and saying, "Yep, here I am. You came looking for me, but I'm not going to help you."
Can't
The only
do it.
reason he could have done that is because there's no other way this can end. It's no one's
Yeah.
going to know. It doesn't
Because
change anything.
Evil Strange is just screwed. So he figured, yeah, I can appear because you've kind of detected me anyway. And by the way, you're screwed. Okay, you're in this little crystal. You've wiped out your universe. This is where you're at. Enjoy your life in your new Space Jam.
That's going to give him centuries worth of chuckles, and he doesn't get to laugh much. I don't think.
The one thing I couldn't stand, I absolutely hated about this episode, and it's just small things. It's just like when I hear the line in a movie, you just don't get it, do you?
Yeah.
It's that shouting at the cloud. No.
Oh
Yeah.
What?
Never
Do
works.
that? Come on.
Yeah.
So cliche.
That was a cliche scene. Yeah.
When did it ever stop anything? Come on.
Do people do that in real life?
Well,
I don't know.
I'm still suffering from shock from when that ended at Revenge of the Sith, and it permanently scarred me for life. For anyone yelling no ever again,
at least he wasn't on his knees shouting at the sky.
That's true, but
they had Wolverine do that in the movie.
Yeah.
Come on.
It doesn't work after
Wolverine?
McBain.
Right.
All right. Well, we are going to shut it down here, gang, and for real this time. So thank you for hanging out. As always, I'm Ian Simmons from Kicking the Seat, David Fowley from Keeping It Real, Mike Crowley from. Oh, wait a second.
Late breaker.
Hold on. Now,
This
as we're
just
wrapping
in.
up,
He's in an alternate timeline account.
This is appropriate.
one of my other Google accounts joining the fun for a bit. Well, a very
A
bit.
very big.
Tajua, thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome. But we're actually closing down, so you can go back and rewind the live broadcast and listen if you want. But yes, so Mike Crowley from 25 Years Later, and you'll probably agree. And we have Don Shanahan from 25 Years Later, and Cinephile History of It podcast, and Every Movie Has a Lesson, and Mark Krawczyk, Mark the Movie Man from the Spoiler Room podcast. So Joe is going to watch the recording. Awesome. Thank you. But yes, thank you all for joining me. I'm excited for week number 5 next week. And for those of you who are watching live and or catching up on the rerun, do they even still say rerun anymore? The rebroadcast. We are going to be doing a double header next week. A few weeks ago, we did Suicide Squad after What If. Next week, we're going to be talking about, say it with me,
Shang-Chi.
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 Racist.
Yes. You know what?
the martial arts movie of MCU.
I'm kidding.
There we go.
Yes.
And
Hey, man, wait
Shang-Chi
till you see those action scenes. Oh,
Shang-Chi and the
man.
10 chicken fingers.
That'll work.
God damn it.
Shang-Chi and the 10 chicken rings. There you go.
Yeah, White Castle endorsement.
That is White Castle, isn't it?
Yeah, could we have Harold and Kumar show up too and really get that multiverse going?
House sauce.
Ooh, well, no, because Harold's Cowboy Bebop. That's a totally different.
Oh, I
totally
did
different
see
universe.
that preview. It should look good. Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
Watch that
But-
preview? Oh.
Oh,
I saw the picture.
okay,
Yeah,
good.
the still picture.
We almost caught you there, Don.
Who is this?
But no, all right. Well, thanks, guys. Catch you next week. And for everyone else, please like, subscribe, check out everybody's stuff. Links down below. Also, a link to the What If. Not next week's live stream. That'll be next week. But the link to the Shang-Chi live stream will be down below. So mark your calendars. Join us back here for all the spoilerific fun. And thank you very much. Until then, Excelsior. I'm going to do this again.